Coming up on Theater Talk.
Oh my gosh!
I am out of here.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Timing is everything in the theater. And at the moment that I sat down to watch this show and watched people behave as if other people mattered and their condition was more important than my own condition was so profound suddenly. It felt like this was the time, if there was any time in history for this show to land, it came at the right moment.
So to speak.
And you know, that's maybe not the definition of art, but it's certainly in the definition of entertainment.
Does that apply to Sweat?
Sorry?
The play Sweat? Do you
I think that's a very good...
We're not even in the same universe of seriousness,
Oh,
though.
all right. Yeah.
Same idea, exactly.
But-
She was I think the genius of that show, which strikes me as
yeah.
prize bait.
By Lynn Nottage, right?
The Sweat, it strikes me as prize bait, that show.
It got the Pulitzer, so it worked.
Yes, it really is prize bait, but it's prescience. That's what
Yes.
that show is, because nothing in the show itself is particularly edifying.
Yeah.
And we should say it's about, it's Lynn Nottage's sort of take on the working class people who
Are
voted for Trump.
a labor
not.
strife.
It's not prize bait. It was written before anybody knew who Donald Trump was outside New York.
Right.
Remember, the show has a long history.
Oh, yes.
And it was not changed along the way. It was based on research of hers that went back to 08 or 09, I think. So there's no
Research in
prize-
these communities
Yeah,
that are
in
dying.
Sometimes I think the
communities.
backstory of Sweat actually makes Sweat more important than seeing the play. I think
make
the
an
play
incredible
is
documentary.
extremely well done, and I think it's a a naturalistic Depression era play. Only it's our Depression.
That's well said.
Yeah, and incredibly well executed, I mean, both as a production and as a play. I saw it where it originated, in Oregon, at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
Was it
And
good then when you
It
saw it?
was, well, I mean, it was a different cast, but it was exactly the same production, directed by Kate Wiersky. And I thought, this show has got legs, and it's going to travel. And sure enough, it did.
But can it win the Tony Award? I think maybe A Doll's House Part 2. Did you like that, Elizabeth?
I didn't care much for it.
Why?
It feels like a class assignment to me, more than a play. And I really like Lucas Nath. Is that how you pronounce his Lucas Nath? I've liked the plays by him that I've seen off Broadway. What strikes me about this play, and another one that's not here, but that was also on Broadway that just closed, Significant Other, is, okay, think this is a season where Lynn Nottage and Paula Vogel made very belated Broadway debut.
Paula Vogel with Indecent.
Indecent. And now we have Lucas Nath and Josh Harmon, who did Significant Other, also making their Broadway debut. And I think this shows that the bar is much lower for men to make their Broadway debut. Because those are not, I mean, I don't understand why Lynn Nottage and Paula Vogel have waited so long with great plays in the past to be on Broadway. And these two guys come in. Significant Other is charming. It's a trifle. Did he need to go to Broadway? I don't think so. And I would say the same about Doll's House.
Ruin
So
would
I
have gone
think-
to Broadway, but they couldn't get a house.
What?
Yeah, Ruin
Would have
Well-
gone to Broadway.
Ruined was
Ruin,
a better
Lynn
play.
Nottage's
Well,
first
you know,
play,
woulda,
earlier.
coulda.
Ruined was a better play.
Woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
We could go on, but I that to me is kind of, and it's a play a year when there were, I think, like 8 plays by men and 2 by women on Broadway.
Because Broadway only embraces musicals about
It's-
women written by men.
Well,
And there are women
that's-
characters who could be played by men.
Did you like A Doll's House Part 2?
So-
I did. I very much liked it. I thought it was beautifully acted. I thought one of the great things, I thought, like Ibsen, I mean, I thought that he really understood these people. The way I think of Ibsen is as sort of as drilling down into these characters and making sure you understand each person's perspective. I felt very much that Nath had done the same thing. I also think that I've seen many plays that sort of, this is a very in vogue thing to riff off classics and turn them into your own. I mean, it's being happened all the time. This one actually delivered on what and it's a very simple idea. She comes back. That's all you really need to know.
I think this play really works. I think it's surprisingly droll. It's funny. and it's smart.
I never felt any of the stakes in the play.
Oh my
that
God.
to me, it was so light.
My stomach was in a knot the entire
Was
time.
it? I thought
yeah.
it was
I thought it
such
was-
a flippant tone
fascinating.
throughout.
And it could have
I
gone
could
either
not.
way.
I
Disagree
couldn't
more.
agree with you more.
And
And-
not knowing how it
The
was
tone
gonna
was
end.
so flippant.
wait.
You don't care what happens. She gets a divorce. She doesn't. Who cares?
These are all, I think this is all, beside the point, the play that should win the Tony for me is Oslo.
Okay, now
Oh my God.
Okay, which
Calm down. Calm
no
down.
slow.
Calm down. Well, our Oslo is about the Oslo peace accords and the Norwegian couple that brought the Palestinians and
Yes.
the Israelis together. in an
Yes,
attempt
at
to
Lincoln
have
Center Theater, directed by Bartlett Sher, starring Jefferson Mays and Jennifer Ely and a cast of 14. I thought it was, again, a model of what that kind of play tries to do. The hardest thing in the world is to
Historical
make
drama.
geopolitical bargaining into a drama that lasts almost 3 hours and feels like 2.
And it's very, very well made, and it's this deep.
Oh, I disagree.
It's so shallow. It's a big picture. It's a, I like that he stands back, because American playwrights tend not to do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
to stand back. It felt like an English play, the kind of...
David Hare kind of a...
Yeah, not quite as smart as David Hare. So
David Hare is really smart.
he's really smart, and he's meaner, I really appreciated that they went after a big picture and tried to tell a big story, and they told it really well, and I thought it was really shallow.
Elizabeth, you didn't like...
I actually think that's the prize bait play. That's totally a prize bait play. And also, actually, geopolitics are fascinating. Like, how can you go wrong with that stuff? The material is fascinating. And
Fascinating. Vincentelli.
I know it doesn't really sell, but
Before we get away from A Doll's House, I think we should say a word about Chris Cooper. Could we please have this man on stage? He is maybe one of the greatest character actors in American film.
He plays Torvald in the play.
And he can do it on stage as well. And I was enthralled. I was really wondering, because you can't always make that jump. But of course, in fact, Chris Cooper has extensive stage experience and classical training. It's 20 years in the past, but it's all still accessible to him. I'm longing to see him do anything he wants to do on stage.
We got to wrap it up.
So one thing about why isn't Indecent
yes.
prize bait?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
right.
think
Paula
Indecent,
Bowles.
I believe Indecent is the play of the season for me.
I agree. I'm with you.
I want to ask you guys, Terry singles out Chris Cooper. A performance this past spring that you saw, Linda, that you think should not be missed?
Katrina Lenk in Indecent.
Thank you. And in the
plays-
band's visit.
And in the band's visit.
Yeah.
Oh, what a good show that was.
Yeah, that was great.
Elizabeth, a performance that stands out in your mind?
For me, it was very interesting to see the two little foxes.
Oh, right, Laura Linney and Cynthia Nixon.
See both. It's they're trade parts. Sometimes one plays Regina, the lead, and sometimes one plays. Anyway, they trade Laura Linney and Cynthia Nixon. It's really fascinating to see the plays back to back and compare. And the rest of the actors don't change.
Right.
I was captivated. I love seeing that show twice.
And Peter?
I thought Danny DeVito,
Oh,
who
absolutely.
has done 2 plays in his life,
Yeah,
Yes.
he was wonderful. In The Price.
in The Price. He's
Yes.
is just a revelation, and he's another one I'd like to see come back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for slicing and dicing. I hope all you people whose shows they destroyed, whose shows they away. Peter Marks from the Washington Post, Terry Teachout from the Wall Street Journal, Elisabeth Vincentelli from the New York Times and the New Yorker, and Linda Weiner, formerly of Newsday.
Well, at this moment, I'm of Newsday. At the time of this
Taping.
taping, I'm at.
To you, Linda.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Don't
30
go
years.
far.
All right, guys.
All you gotta do is just believe you can be who you wanna be. Sincerely me.
So I'm going to ask all of you, what was your favorite production or performance this season? We'll start with you, Jesse Green.
Undoubtedly, Peter Brook's Battlefield, a 1-hour distillation of the great classic 8-hour Mahabharata at BAM.
Yeah.
Patrick Pacheco.
Sunday in the Park with George, a brilliant revival of the Stephen Sondheim classic that was reflected in the pointillism of George Seurat.
Elisabeth Vincentelli.
The Glass Menagerie, harsh, brutal, no sets, no music,
Yeah.
no accents, no lights, almost unbearable.
Devastating. Yeah.
Mike
Devastating.
Riedel.
Well, you know, I'm a Chekhovian, so I thought the Present, which is an updating of the great Chekhov first play, Platonov, with Kate Blanchett, was something that really told you how difficult existence is.
So I would say the evisceration of the patriarchal dynamic in A Doll's House too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael Musto.
Lucas Steele from Natasha Pierre. Woof. Hubba hubba, he's so hot. Even his name makes him sound like a porn star. Lucas Steele. Oh, I also love Dear Evan Hansen's Ben Platt.
Oh, my God.
I am out of here. Guy. I love him.
Michael.
You people don't understand theater like I do.
Welcome and bienvenue, welcome. Fremde, étranger, stranger. Glücklich zu sehen, je suis enchanté. Happy to see you, bleibe, reste, stay.
Now, Susan, I love showbiz memoirs, and there's one that's out recently that is one of the best I've read. Master of Ceremonies, a memoir by a true Broadway legend, Joel Grey, who joins us on
Hi, y'all.
Theater Talk. Welcome back to Theater Talk.
Happy to be here.
I love this book, Joel, because when I read it, it occurred to me you were involved in every single aspect of show business in the 20th century. I mean, from Broadway to vaudeville to
Not news.
I mean, there's nothing in showbiz in the 20th century you didn't do. The house that you grew up in was a showbiz household, right?
My father was essentially a musician. And he just ended up being a comedian.
Well, how did that happen? Because he played the clarinet. He
played the clarinet,
jazz player.
and he started to make these Yiddish comedy records with all these great Hollywood musicians, and they worked. And I think he had maybe 10 albums.
Mickey Katz. And then he went on, but he had a career as a
With
comic.
the Borscht Capades.
The Borscht Capades.
And he put me in it.
As a little kid.
Well, I was 15.
What did you do?
I was never a little kid.
Were you a song and dance man back then?
No, I was just an actor. I never thought I would sing or dance.
Really?
It was nothing that interested me. All I cared about was the theater.
So what did you do at Capades?
I don't know, tried to get away with it. Because I couldn't sing and I couldn't dance, but I had a lot of energy. So I got away with it.
Where did your interest in the serious theater come from? Because you were at the Cleveland Playhouse.
At 9, that was it. That's all I ever thought I would do.
Was a serious actor. As a kid, were you interested in Shakespeare and Shaw and Pirandello? You knew all those playwrights as a little kid?
Yeah.
How?
Just loved it. And I had people at the Cleveland Playhouse who somehow thought I was an actor. And I believed them.
And what did your showbiz family make of your interest in the serious side of
Strange.
theater?
They thought I was strange.
Really?
But they were proud of me. I mean, they were my mom and dad, but they didn't know where I came from.
Did they ever worry, how are you going to make a living if you're just going to do Chekhov and Shakespeare?
Right.
Really?
I wanted to go back to UCLA when I was 18 and study drama and be, more of an intellectual. And I had an offer to play at the Chez Paris in Chicago with this nightclub act that I despised. And my father said, it's a job.
Yeah.
They're going to pay you. And I listened.
And you took it.
And then, fast forward, you were on the Eddie Cantor's show,
Are you Joel Grey? Well, yes, I'm Joel Grey. I have something for you.
giving this remarkable performance, which sort of shows
So
us.
embarrassing. I jumped.
Yes.
Some people dance. I jumped.
How did the Joel Grey, the Broadway musical comedy legend, then develop?
Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. That was the first real, I was in Come Blow Your Horn.
Yeah.
But in terms of a bravura musical comedy, musical theater, Stop the World was the beginning for me.
In your book, you're writing about having emotional troubles during that production. And I thought, don't you have something was going on with you psychologically during that production?
Yes, my marriage was in trouble.
Yes. And of
When your
course-
career is taking off. What was that? So what was that production like? Did you just naturally know how to dance, know how to sing?
No. When I finally realized that I probably was going to be doing something musical, I studied daily dance, and I studied daily singing. I had some of the greatest teachers, and I ended up, knowing how to do it. But it was totally foreign. I thought I was going to be Laurence Olivier.
It's not too late, Joel.
Or Peter Lorre.
But then when everybody came out to see you, you were in Chicago and on touring, and then they saw, no, here's a Broadway star. Here's somebody who's
You
got
saw
the
it in
potential.
Chicago, didn't you?
Yeah, who's got the potential to carry a show. There you are.
When did Fosse come into your life, Bob Fosse? Do you remember when you first met him?
Yes, he was he had a partnership, a dance act,
Yeah.
Fosse and Niles.
Right.
And I remember thinking, oh, if I could only be like him. Because he was like the darling of Broadway. So it was very odd that we ended up in this other relationship because of the movie, because he didn't want me in the movie.
Cabaret.
In the movie of Cabaret, because he wanted to create it from the get-go, from the bottom up. Didn't want anybody connected with the Broadway show. And he got stuck with me.
Why? Did you have a deal with your contract that you had to be in the movie, or
No. As a matter of fact, we both had Sam Cohn
the legendary agent?
as an agent. And the story goes that it was like 6 weeks before we started shooting, and Marty Baum and Manny Wolf and all the people involved in the production of the film, Fuhrer and Martin, were in a meeting, and Bob walked in and he said, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. We got to make this decision. It's either Joel Grey or me. And Marty Baum said, then it's Joel Grey. I don't think that's ever happened to an actor, because it's a director's medium.
Right. He was saddled with you.
He was stuck
Right. And he
And he
made
had-
it clear he was not happy with you.
for months.
How do you handle that?
Yeah, you
How do you deal with
described this struggle. How did that manifest itself the most vividly? It's in the book, but it's...
I had confidence having, played it on Broadway.
And won the Tony.
And had acceptance. And so I had to just keep very focused. And everybody else was wonderful. Liza was adorable and, supportive, and we had a very good time. And I think that there was an odd thing that developed in that we challenged each other. It was unspoken, but he was always putting me in a very difficult position. And I said, oh, God damn it, I'm not going to let that happen. And so I was fighting for it all the time. And he ultimately, I think, saw that I had something to offer.
Yeah, hello.
Of course, my real private belief was that he's a great director.
Yeah.
And that somewhere along the line, I think he always wanted to perform, and maybe he thought if he got rid of me,
He could.
they would
that's
have to
interesting.
take him.
Really?
That's interesting. Now, Joe, one of the threads that runs through your book very strongly is the fact that you were, what I say, closeted homosexual. You were not out as a homosexual until very recently, in your early 80s. But you're writing about how you were kind of had a double life throughout your career, and really give one such a strong feeling of how difficult it was, in your...
It was difficult for anybody who had any idea that they loved same sex.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was another world. And it was just not okay.
When did it break through that you finally felt? I mean, I know you had a marriage for a very long time. You have 2 adult
24
children.
years.
Yeah.
I think doing the normal heart
Yeah.
and realizing the power and sadness and issues that came up in that, there was no way ever to hide from myself.
Do you remember when you first did Cabaret on the stage in Hal's production, what did those early audiences make of it?
Oh, it was so shocking.
Really? Yeah, I think
They
Lou said-
just, I mean, there was a lot of talk about the recent production being so much more daring and edgy. People were, I mean, they didn't know what to do with that original production. Hal's production was so edgy.
Can you be more specific about what was the most shocking thing to 1966 audiences?
Everything that they saw in the opening number, nobody had any idea that they would ever see that.
Which was?
This outrageous German Nazi sexuality. I mean, the girls used to lie down on the edge of the stage, put their feet up like this, and people were sitting right here. That's 1966. It was so shocking and wonderful.
Yeah.
Ron Field and Hal Prince, I mean, they had another artful darkness about that collaboration. And it was a scary, scary show. And people would walk out after Tomorrow Belongs to Me at the end of Act One.
Yeah.
And it was quiet.
Now, how much of this sensibility of the show was contributed by Kander and Ebb with their score?
I think everybody did their best work and were led by Hal in a certain direction so that the excellence, Ron Field, Pat Ziprot, costumes.
You were also wonderful in the revival of Chicago, now going on 20 years on Broadway. But what I found remarkable about your performance was, if I'm not mistaken, the original Amos was Barney
Martin.
Barney Martin, who is a big guy.
Yeah, and
the-
wonderful.
Right, and the joke, though, was...
I thought they were crazy when they
I
called
was going to
me.
ask you, why did they called you? And they said, well, I'm not right for this part. He's supposed to be a big guy. The joke is I'm Mr.
I said
Cellophane,
no.
even though I weigh 300 pounds.
I said no.
Why? Because...
I thought that's just miscasting. I'm not a dumb mechanic. I'm other things.
So who lured you in?
Walter.
Bobby, the director, yeah.
And Anne Reinking said, we'll figure it out. And we talked about it, and I said, I don't think dumb is my main thing.
Right.
That I emanate. Maybe it is, and maybe I'm that dumb. I said, I think that Amos loves Roxy with such a purity that he's not a jerk. He's not dumb. He's probably the only lover in the show.
Where did you come up with that wonderful, the cellophane, when you shake the hands and then you begin to sway, the Joel Grey sway that I've never seen anyone quite be able to do the way you did it? Is that just the...
That we did it at Encores.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was even going to be a success.
No. But did you choreograph that stuff with Anne, or did she come up with it for you, or you guys just...
You never know with stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, that comes from three sensibilities.
But also, how about from your history in show business, though? I mean, your knowledge of the stuff that your father did, the clubs he worked in, the Borscht Belt stuff, almost the old vaudeville stuff. You seem to embody that in your characterization.
He was a vaudevillian.
He was. So you had that somewhere in you.
I did.
Yeah. It's lost, though, now. Young performers today, can they move the way Joel Grey or Robert Morris can move?
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Yeah, it's a kind of performing that is, I guess it comes from the golden age of Broadway. I don't think it's going to be there for much longer.
Oh, well.
A little bit of a hand.
Wait a minute. Look at this. Look at him.
Da, da, da. Am I doing it all right? I've got
We
this-
can work after the show.
Was there ever a moment in your career where you had the height of Broadway and you won the Oscar? Was there ever a lull after that? Was there ever a moment where you suddenly Joel Grey is not?
Every other year.
Really? You went through some troughs though, right? Some times where.
Absolutely.
What do you do to keep?
Everybody does.
Right. But what do you do when you've won the Oscar and you've won the Tony and you are, leading man on Broadway, and then suddenly where are the jobs? What does one do in one's life then?
I don't know. It happens to almost every actor I know.
But you survive through it.
If you love it and you get another job, you're back in business.
And if you want to learn about an amazing life in show business, pick up Master of Ceremonies, a memoir by Joel Grey. It's always a pleasure seeing you, Joel. Thank you very much for being our guest
glad
tonight
to be here.
on Theater Talk. I'm going to work on the.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
you know
look at just
something?
the way you do with it, I can't even.
I can help you.
See, I'm too stiff, but you just the way you did it. Do that little hand thing. It flutters. That's it. That's the Master of Ceremonies at work.
Never even know. I'm there. Hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you